Welcome to the Sheridan Report. The Sheridan Report is brought to you by MyBookie.Ag. To get up to a $1,000 cash bonus on your first deposit, make sure you go to thegruelingtruth.net, click on the MyBookie.Ag banner at the top of the page, and you can get that bonus. You can also get it by going to MyBookie.Ag and putting in the promo code TGT50, I believe it is. All right, guys, I am your host, Mike Goodpastor, with Bobby Sheridan. How you doing, Bobby?
Mike, I'm doing great this morning, and it's a big day. You know, we've got the NBA lines have just come out for the series prices, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Of course, we got MLB already cranking, and with the ATP, we've already finished 2 matches, and the Masters has started. There's a lot going on.
All right, so let's start off with baseball, Bobby.
Let's start off with baseball. You know, we got the 3-team parlay that we play every day. It's already got 2 of the 3 have already started, so we missed that in terms of being able to give that all out on the air.
But if you don't want to miss that, you can go to the SheridanReport.com, buy the Sheridan Report for $10 a day or $50 a month, and you will get that report somewhere around midnight Eastern time or a little later, but you'll have it in plenty of time.
Right, the night before, and I don't know of many services, really, if any at all, that do that, but it's what I've always done. And you'll get all the early baseball stuff, and you'll also get the ATP PGA stuff, and we'll go over that in a second. But 3-team parlay, we've got the Reds, who have got a 1-0 lead in the 5th. We had them. They started at 9:35 Pacific. We got the Dodgers, who were up 3-0, looking good. They're now trailing 4-3. That game's very early, 3rd inning. And we got that all tied to the Red Sox at 4 o'clock. So the Red Sox game is still kind of open if you want to mix and match a little bit with the 2 that we're going to give you, the 2 straight plays. And those are, we got the Royals already going, and they're up 3-0. That was a nice underdog play plus $1.15. They're up 3-0. So that straight plays off to a good start. And we got 2 tonight. Now here's the 2 we can still be on, our listeners. The Mets at plus $1.12 on the sheet, and I've got it at right in that area. Maybe a little bit better than that. Let me give you an updated price on the Mets for tonight, or plus 118 to get a little bit better, price. That's against the Braves. That's at 420. I like that pitching matchup. That's a left-hander Steven Matz going there for the Mets, and they're going on the road and playing a rival. You know, this will be the Mets and Braves, and it may come down to these 2 for the division title. And the Mets have really come out prepared. They had so many games against their divisional opponents to start the season. They came out of spring training really ready to play. I think they'll go down there and win this ball game to start the series. And then the other game is I like the Giants. I know I've been on the Giants a lot, and they've let us down, but I still believe in what we're doing there. We're getting the right price on them. They're being very undervalued. They've had some tough losses, and I believe just with a few breaks they can string together something much like the Angels have here. And I think the Giants could be sitting on that, and I like the matchup, and so does the betting public. I got it last night at plus $1.10, and the Giants are now actually minus 102. So that means that's come way down in favor of the Giants.
I'll tell you what, Bobby,
Giants,
if you can hear a dog in the background, it's not mine. It's a neighbor dog in my backyard, and it's pissing me off. But if I shoot him, they'll have proof because we're on here right now. It's like Steve Risley's with us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's got his 2 that are always barking. But, you know, okay, so recap, Giants, Mets still alive tonight. You can bet both of those straight plays, and then we've got 1/3 of the parlay still alive, Boston. So that might make a pretty good.
Do you recommend Giants, Mets, and Red Sox then?
I do. I think that'd make a really good 3-teamer. That's exactly what I'll do. I'll probably play that one also. You know, I haven't yet, but I'll probably do that. And I've already got straight plays on the 2 straights, and I have a parlay between those 2 also. Remember what I said? You know, my favorite bet, and the bet I think is the best value you can find, is a dog-to-dog parlay. So whenever we have a couple of our dogs on the straights, you've always got to put those solid 2-teamers in, and really like that. So that's the baseball for today.
All right, Bobby, you want to go ahead and take a quick glance at the NBA playoffs, which will start Saturday?
I do. I want to take a quick glance. We won't, this isn't the show to go over all the matchups and what we like and everything, but I just want to mention a couple things. That if you follow me on Twitter, you already have seen some of the things I've written about yesterday and how the season ended. And Portland absolutely did not want to win that game. You can't tell guys to go out there and miss shots and not compete. I mean, they're professionals, and the kid came off the bench. He hadn't played all year. He had 36 points all year, getting like a minute a game average, and he scored 38 last night and hit 7 threes. They came back from 30 points down. They played only 6 players. And the reason why they did this, Mike, is because they were trying to avoid, if they could, an OKC matchup. Because OKC beat them 4 times this year. They did not beat OKC, not one time during the regular season. That's with Lillard, with McCollum, with Nurkic. They didn't beat them. So naturally, they're an underdog in this series. They have the home court advantage, and they've come out an underdog. The Thunder are favored, minus 145. Portland plus 125. So, they tried to lose the best they could, and without, you can't, like I said, but they, Sacramento sat the starters at halftime. They had a 28-point lead, sat the starters. It got up to 30 early in the third, and then they got the reserves blew out the Sacramento reserves. And the Sacramento coach is getting fired today. Don't know if that has anything to do with it.
He should, Bobby.
But he should. He should. That was a joke what he did. And then the announcers were saying, these are guys that have been there 40 years. Doug Christie, about 12 since he's retired, or 8 or 10. But the other announcer for the Kings, I forget his name, has been there for 30 years. He was saying how pathetic a performance that was because they never even put any pressure on the ball. They played the whole second half, just dropped back like a high school game, a JV high school game or something. Just drop back and just Portland had played only 6 players, 40 minutes. They all played the whole game. Mike, it was unbelievable what we witnessed last night. And so Portland's stuck playing OKC. That puts Utah against the Rockets. Well, the Rockets, we knew they were going to be a favorite over anybody. They're the team that could beat the Warriors. So the Rockets, of course, are minus 340. Utah's plus 280. But the Utah-Portland matchup was the one that would have been very close odds. Portland would have been a small favorite in that series. Now they're a dog. So incredible stuff.
How about this? What's the line on the San Antonio-Denver series?
Very, very good question. And here you got Denver, the 2 seed, only minus 235. San Antonio's plus 195.
I would damn near favor San Antonio in that series.
Me too. And except for Denver's got the best home court record, but not at all the last 20 or 30 games. Denver is limping here into the playoffs, and they had to win last night to get the 2, and they barely did that over Minnesota, who didn't even play Towns. And we had Minnesota. We were 2-2 on our plays that we went over on, and we did plenty of time on Twitter and analyzed why, and should have been 3-1. And I know I lost a ton on this Kings game, but anyhow, the Warriors are huge over the Clippers. Toronto's huge over Orlando. Philadelphia is very significant over the Nets. Now here's very interesting for the Indiana fans. Well, just Mike, off the top of your head, because I know you haven't looked at these. Indiana's playing Boston. That's 4-5 matchup. Could have gone either way. What do you think that series price is?
I would say Boston minus 245.
Can you believe this? Boston's minus 700.
Damn, really?
Yeah, Indiana's plus 500. You get 5-1 odds in the Pacers in that series.
Damn.
That's unbelievable.
That is.
That's unbelievable.
I don't give series lines on the damn MyBookie thing. They don't give series lines.
They might. You might just have to search where they're at.
Well, I need to find them.
I know.
I would actually jump all over that 5-1.
I agree with you. So that's a little touch in the NBA, Mike. We'll go over these, whether it's Survive in Advance or whether it's our show maybe Saturday. Let's hit some of these a little closer. But I just wanted to give the fans a little taste of the NBA playoffs coming up.
All right, now we got the NHL playoffs, and last night we saw the Columbus Blue Jackets, who were the 8 seed, come from a 3-0 deficit to win 4-3, and it's kind of what we talked about yesterday when I talked about the Avalanche and Flames. Was it seems like there's more upsets in the NHL than there is in any league, And we've got 3 games tonight, and we got the Maple Leafs, who are plus 120 on MyBookie for me, against the Bruins, who are minus 140. What do you think on this one, Bobby?
I like the Maple Leafs, and Mike, and I don't play hockey. I don't handicap it, but we're getting into it a little bit. You know, our show runs in Canada now, and we're talking a little bit about this, and I'm listening to you about the upsets, which is right up my alley. And here I saw it happen yesterday. You know, you almost predicted it. So the Maple Leafs and the Hurricanes are the 2 teams that I thought had good underdog chances. I took a little play on both of those. The Maple Leafs have come down, Mike. I think the fans are listening to the grueling truth, because that was plus 125 yesterday, both for Game 1 and the series, and both have come down on mine to plus 115. So I think the Leafs are looking like they got a shot in this thing.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is, do you jump on it right away in Game 1, or do you wait and see what happens in 1 and kind of go off of that?
I think you could do either way. We talked about that yesterday. My style, I can agree with both, and you wouldn't be wrong doing that, but my style would be get on it right away, get Game 1, and bet on it. And if you hit, you can then lay off Game 2. If you lose, you could put a little more on Game 2. Just stick with your take, believe in it. Put a little more on Game 2, or put the same amount, because they're an underdog. You can win a little bit of the juice, or you can go for the win. So 100 in Game 1, okay, it loses. 200 in Game 2.
Yeah, because I think when I look at this, at least 1 and possibly 2 of these underdogs tonight are going to win, I think. The problem is figuring out which one it'll be. And I also think Game 1 of a series, especially when you're the road underdog, I think is usually your best chance to get one of those first 2 games. And we saw it last night with Columbus.
I agree with that. I think it can be, but I do think Toronto has a mission there, and that's to split. And so if they don't get it in Game 1, let's see how it goes. And don't be, like this is any sport. There could be a blowout Game 1. That doesn't mean that the underdog can't come back and snag Game 2. So don't,
and we've seen that a lot in all sports over the last few decades.
Right. Yes, we have. And so if that's what your take is, that they could split these, then you don't even care about what the score is. If they lose Game 1, just come back and bet Game 2.
All right, Bobby. We got anything else, or are we ready to move on this day after a commercial break?
Quick one. Just a quick one. We talked about the early risers, and we talked about the ATP. Those 2 tournaments are now getting into the home stretch, and we've done very well on those. We were 5-3 going into this morning, and we split for a small profit again because they're both underdogs. So we're 6-4 heading into the Friday, Saturday, Sunday stretch of those. No, it's not a major either one of those, just some small tournaments, but we've hit 60%.
Hey, Bobby, real quick, I have good news for you if you're not paying attention. The Reds are now up 4-0, and the Dodgers put a 4 spot up to be up 7-4.
Oh, very good, Mike. Thank you very much for that. That parlay will be alive to the Red Sox, and that was about paying about 3.30 to 1 when I put it in this morning. So we'll have a really good bet on Boston tonight. We'll have 3-1 on Boston, and they're really a 2-1 favorite. So we'll have a good thing there if we can keep that going. What's the Royals score?
The Royals score. Damn it, you would get me right after I got off of it. Hold on. The Royals are up 3-0 over the Mariners, bottom of the 4th.
And that was a nice straight play for us. So, Mike, I will tell you this. I was talking to Chad, my computer guy, yesterday. He said, Bobby, the baseball's starting to click. And he's right, it is. We're going for 3 out of 5 in the 3-teamer. And our straight plays are now hitting. So, we're 2 weeks in, and we're now clicking a little bit. So stay on track of the baseball. Okay, back to the early risers. PGA now. We know it's the Masters. We have 2 matchups that went off today, and they're both really close right now. We don't need to go over them. But what I am trying to say is that there's some good matchups available each of these days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you'll have to get the sheet to get those. That they go off early in the morning. So, but I'm really excited for that. And my long shot pick in this tournament was Schauffele. And he was like 35 to 1 to win the tournament. I do have some money on him, and he's gotten off to a decent start. So let's keep our eye on Schauffele. And then one of the fan favorites, other than Tiger, and he's always a favorite by so many people, but would be Ricky Fowler trying to get his first major, and he's gotten off to a decent start today. Not great, so not bad, but not great. So let's keep an eye on those things as they go along.
All right, Bobby. real quick, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back to On This Day, and we're going to go back to 1981, which is one of my favorite years ever. So we'll be back right after this. Hi, I'm Mike Goodpasser from the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and I'm here with just one simple message. If you're watching the games, it's time to start making money. The Grueling Truth has recently partnered with MyBookie.Ag, an industry-leading sportsbook website, who reminds you that where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on, and that's why the Grueling Truth urges you to check out MyBookie.Ag. In addition to the usual thousands of odds, money lines, proposition bets, and futures offered on MyBookie.Ag daily, they also have in-game live betting and a mobile site that makes wagering on the go easier than ever. So join now and MyBookie will give you up to a free $1,000 cash bonus on your first deposit. Just enter promo code TGT50, that's TGT50, to take advantage of this offer. You can also go to thegruelingtruth.net, click the banner at the top of the page for MyBookie.Ag, and also get the same benefit and the same $1,000 free cash bonus on your first deposit. So visit MyBookie.Ag, courtesy of the Grueling Truth, and enjoy winning today. MyBookie.Ag. You play, you win, you get paid. All right, guys, we're back on the Sheridan Report. I'm Mike Goodpasser with Bobby Sheridan. Bobby, on this day.
On this day, back to one of your favorite years, 1981, and one of the most, probably the favorite thing I like to listen to you talk about, Mike, and that's boxing. And I don't, like I said, I love hearing the stories, and you've interviewed this guy a few times on the Legends, and you have so many good things, and I know you'll have more today. 1981, Larry Holmes beats Trevor Holmes in 15.
Trevor Berbick.
Oh, excuse me, Trevor Berbick. Yeah, that was his.
Yeah, he beat up his brother. Let's see. Yeah. Mom didn't stop the fight quick enough, and now Trevor's got brain damage. All right, so when we look at Larry Holmes, there's a couple interesting angles on this fight. And if you look at Larry Holmes, most people thought that he did not have the heart to be a great heavyweight. He was in the 1972 Olympic trials, and he got beat by Dwayne Bobbick, but he didn't just get beat by Dwayne Bobbick. He quit against Dwayne Bobbick. So people thought he was a coward. People didn't think he would ever amount to anything. But he went to Deer Lake in Pennsylvania, or Deer Creek, and he trained with Muhammad Ali. He got Ali ready for Ali Frazier 3, the Thrilla in Manila. I think he helped Ali get ready for Ali Foreman. And he hooked up with Don King because, of course, Ali's promoter was Don King at the time. And he fought a bunch of nondescript fights. He gets up, he gets a shot to fight Fred Hoppe. And Fred Hoppe was actually nicknamed Young Sanford because the manager for him was Red Fox, who was, of course, Fred Sanford in TV shows. And he dominates him. He beats Roy Williams. He gets a shot at Ernie Shavers. And Ernie Shavers at the time, I think, was like ranked number 1 or 2 in the world. Most people thought that Shavers would beat him because Shavers had a big punch. Holmes was known for quitting because of what happened in 1972. But Ernie Shavers actually got his ears boxed off, as they said, by Larry Holmes. Holmes wins almost every round. It was a competitive fight, but he clearly won it. And that led up to him getting a shot at the WBC World Heavyweight Championship against Ken Norton, who was the number 1 contender. Holmes was number 2. And the reason the title was vacated, of course, was because Ali, number 1, refused to fight Norton a fourth time. They'd fought the third time at Yankee Stadium in 1976. Ali won a close, disputed decision. And when it came down to it, Ali chose to fight Leon Spinks. So before he even fought Leon Spinks, they set up the 1 and 2 contenders at that time, which were Ken Norton and Jimmy Young. I think Jimmy Young won the fight. I think he got screwed, but Ken Norton had the money behind him. That made Norton the champion. You fast forward to June, and of course, Leon Spinks had already upset Muhammad Ali in February of 78. And there was still the cry for Leon Spinks to fight Ken Norton, but Spinks said that since Ali gave him a shot, he was giving Ali a rematch. So that made this fight for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World between Ken Norton and Larry Holmes. And the interesting thing about that fight, look, I got a next-door neighbor dog barking. I got somebody calling from French Gulch. I mean, this is live radio right here, and you would say, why didn't I leave the phone in the other room? and that would be just because I made a freaking mistake and I'm about to break the damn thing. But he fights Kid Norton, and the great thing about the Norton-Holmes fight, one of the greatest heavyweight title fights of all time, but you also had, Muhammad Ali in studio talking about how after he beat Spinks in the rematch, he'd fight Norton again. That never happened. He definitely didn't fight Holmes. Holmes wins the fight. He goes on to defend against a couple nondescript guys, Alfredo Evangelista, Ozzy Ocasio, who we talked about a while back. He fights Mike Weaver. Mike Weaver is considered nondescript. They fight at Madison Square Garden. Weaver's 19-8, and he almost knocks Holmes out. Has Holmes hurt, I think, in the 9th or 10th round. Holmes comes back to knock Weaver out, and then Holmes fights a rematch against Ernie Shavers. He gets knocked down in the 7th round, looked like he's dead, gets up, dominates the rest of the fight and stops him. Fights a few more nondescript guys, and Lorenzo Zanon, Leroy Jones, and I think Scott Ledoux. That leads up to Muhammad Ali making a comeback. In October of 1980, Ali fights Holmes in one of the biggest fights in boxing history, not one of the best. Sad day for Ali. He had a thyroid condition, at least they claimed they did. Or they claimed he did, the doctors did. They gave him thyroid medication. It got him all the way down at one point to 217 pounds. And he looked the part, but he just couldn't do it anymore. And he gets dominated by Larry Holmes. Now, that brings us to Trevor Berbick, because when you look at Larry Holmes, his fight after Ali was against Trevor Berbick. Trevor Berbick was a guy after... most people thought that Trevor Berbick was a safe defense. Holmes would go in, have an easy time with him. Really, his only fight of note was he fought Big John Tate. Big John Tate's a dude that I think at the end of 79, lost his WBA heavyweight title to Mike Weaver. He was dominating Weaver, won all 13 rounds, 14 rounds actually, or probably 13 out of the 14. And then in the 15th round, Weaver hits him with 45 seconds left, kind of like the Hail Mary version of boxing, and knocks him out. Most people at the time were wanting to see Tate and Holmes. That was supposed to be the big super fight, or there was even talk, instead of fighting, Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes wouldn't fight Ali, and then that fight would go to John Tate. John Tate in June of 1980 fought Mike Weaver. They fought on the undercard of Leonard Duran 1, one of the great fights in boxing history. And the same thing. I mean, Berbick is getting dominated for 8 rounds. In the 9th round, he hits Tate, knocks him unconscious. That's pretty much the end of Tate. After that, he fights guys that are like 7-3, 4-0, 12-5, and then he gets the shot at Larry Holmes. And nobody thought he had a chance, and I don't think anybody had gone the distance with Holmes the first 3 years he was the champion. But Berbick goes the distance. I think the scores were like 150 to 135, a shutout, 146, 139, 146, 140. But Berbick did well for himself. And the other interesting thing here is, if you watch that fight, it's up on YouTube. I got a DVD of it, but they fought on HBO. And you see sitting ringside is Joe Louis, the great former champion. The interesting thing there is last time that Joe Louis was seen in public, because the very next morning Joe Louis dies of a heart attack.
Oh, gosh.
So we get to it. Holmes fights Berbick. Holmes beats Berbick fairly easy, but it's one of them things where Berbick put up a better fight than most people thought he would. So he continues, he continues to be ranked. And the thing about Berbick is he wasn't a big puncher. So Muhammad Ali was actually trying to set up a fight with then WBA heavyweight champion Mike Weaver, who had beaten for the vacant title after he lost to Holmes John Tate in South Africa. And when they get this fight, the thing about this fight, though, is Ali has to be ranked. The only way he would be ranked is if he fights a ranked contender. So they find Trevor Berbick. They think Trevor Berbick is the safe out for Ali. And he probably was, because he didn't punch real hard. The only problem was Ali had nothing left. And the other thing real quick that I remember is I think Holmes against Berbick was like a 50-1 favorite. So that's pretty low.
And so
odds.
the fact that he...
the fact that he went the distance made people respect Trevor Berbick. And there was a lot to respect, because he fought his ass off in that fight. He just technically was nowhere near as good as Larry Holmes. Few people ever were. But Ali fights Berbick, and the thing about the fight is they fight it in Nassau in the Bahamas, and the fight was almost canceled. They called it the Drama in Bahamas, but the promoter had a little problem with having the funds. The fight was shown on closed-circuit TV. I mean, the undercard, you had guys like Thomas Hearns, Greg Page, Ernie Shavers, Eddie Mustafa Muhammad on it. So it was a huge one. And following the TKO loss to Holmes, Ali said he would return. Two physicians, including his former doctor, Ferdy Pacheco, had stated that Ali was suffering from brain damage, having absorbed too many punches. His speech was slowed and occasionally slurred, and he was worried himself, and he wanted to put the question to rest. And I remember before fighting Berbick, Ali actually submitted to a series of tests a couple months before that fight, I think at New York University, and they sent it, I think, to the Mayo Clinic. It included a CAT scan. I mean, they did a neurological exam, blood check. And out of the 30 doctors who were involved in the studies, they all came to the same conclusion. There's absolutely no evidence that Muhammad Ali has sustained any injury to any vital organ. And they asked a few of the doctors about the slurring, and they said that the slurring was probably not permanent damage. He would be diagnosed later in 1984 with Parkinson's disease, which is what eventually got him, which can be Parkinson's. I don't know if it could be caused by it, but it can actually accelerate the process and make it even worse and quicker. But they let him fight Berbick, and he was more competitive than he was against Ali. He actually won a few rounds. He just didn't have it anymore. And then Berbick went on after that to actually capture a portion of the heavyweight title. He fought a guy by the name of Pinklon Thomas. Pinklon Thomas was a really talented guy. And at the time he fought Berbick, he was like a huge favorite. Everybody thought Thomas was going to beat him up. The backstory to this was Mike Tyson had knocked out would go on to knock out Trevor Berbick later. But the interesting thing here was this. Pinklon Thomas, and we had him on the show. We interviewed him about it. And when we talked to Thomas, he still thinks to this day that, the decision was unfair because Pinklon Thomas was a lot more dangerous for Mike Tyson to fight. Mike Tyson was a boxer in the mold of, Buster Douglas, who would beat him 4 years later. He was a big, strong guy, had a big jab, could punch with both hands. And when you watch the fight, Pinklon Thomas against Trevor Berbick, I don't think there's any doubt that Pinklon Thomas won the fight. But there's no way that Don King was going to throw Mike Tyson in his first title chance or first title shot in against a big, strong guy that could punch and could box. So instead, they put him in against Trevor Berbick. Mike Tyson knocks out Trevor Berbick in 2 rounds. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Oh, man, and you can totally see how that would happen with Thomas there, not can't let him win that fight. So, you could see that. And I had a question with the Berbick-Holmes fight. So that was the first fight for Holmes after he beat Ali.
Yeah, because they fought that fight in October. He fought Trevor Berbick in April of the next year. And then, of course, the year after that's when he had the epic confrontation with Jerry Cooney, which is one of the great heavyweight title fights of all time.
Right, and so just to back up, when he beat Ali, did Ali have the title because Ali had just beaten Spinks again, or what?
No, Ali hadn't fought in 2 years, and basically, though, a lot of your old-time boxing fans don't really consider Holmes the champion until he'd beaten Ali, because Ali was the lineal champion, which lineal champion means you're the man that beat the man. Because around the 70s, even into the 60s, or a little bit before there, they started splitting these up where you'd have like the WBA champion, the WBC champion.
Right.
But there was one universally recognized champion. It's just like after Holmes beats Mike Weaver, Weaver went on to win the WBA championship. I don't think, even though Mike Weaver's a great guy and he's been on this show before, I don't think anybody really considers him a champion over Holmes. But Ring Magazine made the rules on the lineal, and it was basically if you did not fight or defend your title against a top 5 or top 10 fighter in 2 years, you wouldn't be considered a champion anymore. So Ali was right at 2 years, and actually, to me, that's when Holmes became the legitimate champion. And it's just like Tyson, to me, was not the youngest heavyweight champion in the world because he beat Trevor Berbick. Trevor Berbick was not the legitimate heavyweight champion of the world at that point because Michael Spinks was, because he had upset Larry Holmes twice to claim the real heavyweight championship. So so to me, Mike Tyson was not the youngest heavyweight champion of all time because he did not beat Spinks until 1988, which would have made him older than Floyd Patterson, who originally held the record as being the youngest heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, now see, that's very interesting to me how those rankings work, and I didn't know at all until just now, and so that is very interesting. But I could see why it came about, because you could have some fighters just sitting on their championship, and you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, Jack Dempsey would go 2-3 years without defending his title because he was acting in movies, he was on vaudeville, and he was making a bunch of money without fighting, so he didn't. Now, the other thing is this. When we do a show Saturday, Bobby, I think we ought to do a little boxing because I got a possible upset that's going to have a really big number for people.
Oh, well, then we're doing it. We're doing it. No doubt about it.
I just hope that the guy knocks the other guy out so we don't have to go through that decision bullshit again. But, and of course, once again, you go to the Sheridan Report, at Sheridan Report on Twitter, or the SheridanReport.com on the internet. $10 a day for Bobby's, $50 for the week. Also, Bobby, you want to tell everybody a little bit about the Handicapper's Guide?
Sure. It's called there's a website. I mentioned my computer buddy that does all my stuff. Well, his father, I mentioned it yesterday, and he has an ad on the GrillingTruth.net there towards the bottom. It's called PHG.
I think it's middle to the right if you guys want to check it out.
Okay, to the right now. Okay, so thehandicappinguide.com is his website, and he has it's basically a daily or monthly, however you want to purchase it. It's sheet for that day's races at 4 different tracks, and you can purchase just your home track, which might be Southern California, or it might be the East Coast, or wherever they're at, the different regions. And he's got his number system, his rankings, and they come out really well. And it's kind of like when you walk into the track and you used to you get a program and you might get a tout sheet. So I would say this is kind of like a tout sheet, and it's his ranking system that he puts out for the horses for that day's card. So he does a pretty good job. And I thought, we got the Kentucky Derby coming up, and he is sponsoring the Grueling Truth, that, maybe plug him a little bit. And Mike, you were so gracious. I talked to him last night. He was excited as hell to come on and do a show.
Well, we definitely need a handicapper for talking about that, because I don't know how much we know about horses. I used to, because I used to go to the track all the time with my dad, but it really, when you look at this, the deal you get with him is you can go to California, Santa Anita, get $10 for the entire month. I mean, you get full access for 30 days. You get bonus cards on dark days. You get great customer support, prompt delivery. Same thing with New York, Aqueduct Park, Gulfstream Park in Florida, Keeneland in Kentucky. If you go to those parks and bet the horses, I mean, it's just like $10 a month. And, I mean, you really can't beat that, Bobby. It's a hell of a lot better than paying whatever it is for a program or a handicapper's guide that they give you that's printed up by the track anyway.
Right, exactly. And so, the guy's been very successful. He's hit pick sixes and things like that. So, he's a good guy, and he does a great job, more importantly. And so, anyhow, very good, Mike. I appreciate you bringing that up again. And I know he's very thankful, and he listens every day to the shows, and very loyal fan. So it's good stuff for everybody.
Yeah, and the other cool thing is, if you want to bet all 4 tracks per day, it's only $5, $30 per month. So actually, I think this is a great deal if you like to play the horses.
No doubt about it. And there's so many people now that have TVG or Express Bet or one of the services online where you can bet from your home. Thankfully for me, when I was a kid, I used to love the horses too much, and I would lose too much money because I don't know what I'm doing. But
you're young and stupid. We all were there one time.
Young and stupid. So now I like the races, but I don't bet.
Yeah.
I just, I might bet a little bit, but I don't, I'm not gonna lose money, more on that. But I mean, it's some people do make some money on the races, and it's like anything else. You have to be very disciplined, and you're gonna have a better chance when you got a professional giving you numbers you have a better chance to win. So, no doubt
All
about
right,
it.
Bobby. And so Cardinals are now down 7-5 to the Dodgers. The Reds are up 4-0, and the White Sox Royals game is now 4-0.
Very good. You mean the Mariners Royals?
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, Mariners Royals. I watched the White
Yes.
Sox play them a couple times last week, so it's ingrained in my
Yes,
mind.
you did.
But all right, guys.
Yes. Okay.
It's impressive because, doing this and following along with you, now I'm watching baseball every day for like 3 or 4 hours. That hadn't happened since I was like 12.
Well, we're just getting started. This is going to be a big year, Mike.
All right, Bobby, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We will be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Saturday at 2 o'clock. Survive in advance. Tomorrow, Bobby, you're coming on with Cole Hanna to break down the NBA playoffs, aren't you?
I sure will, and I'm excited for that. I'm going to be doing a lot of work on those series tonight so that I can be ready for that and be ready to make some money.
All right, sounds good, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Inside Boxing Weekly tonight with me, Jeremiah, and John will be on. The website has been upgraded. Everything moves a lot quicker. Make sure you tell everybody about it. Make sure you go to iTunes, any place you can rate us. Give us a good rating, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, you can hear all of our shows on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpastor. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak. I'm going to